Hey folks, welcome to the Cripescast. I am Charlie Behrens, and today we're talking with my buddy Kevin Florek, who is the head of Tellurian outside of Madison, Wisconsin. It's a great organization that helps people with mental health, struggling with addiction. They do really good work. I hosted a benefit for them earlier in the year. We got connected through Gilbert Brown, so that's kind of the that's sort of the trickle down effect here of how it all works out. But Kevin's a great guy. He's doing a lot of incredible work. His organization is always in need of your help. So as you listen to this and you listen to the problems that sort of Kevin is bringing up, that the help that they're giving the state of Wisconsin, consider donating yourself. We'll leave a link in the show notes and everything. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is my conversation with Kevin Florek. Thanks for coming in, Kevin. So why don't you just start by giving people just a sense of what Tellurian is?
Yeah, so Tellurian is a company that my uncle started in the 70s, and he lived in Oshkosh. Mike Florek is his name, and he was working at Winnebago Mental Health Center. And he noticed that people were coming back from Vietnam and being arrested or thrown into the psych ward, and quickly started understanding that they needed mental health and addiction treatment because they were coming back addicted to heroin from Vietnam, and they were suffering from post-traumatic stress. So he wrote a grant and started working with vets in the 70s. And then in the 80s, he moved to Madison and started growing mental health and addiction and homeless service programs. And I started working at Tellurian in the 90s, and I took over for him maybe 10, 15 years ago. And now we've grown into a behavioral health company that treats close to 9,000 people annually in the state of Wisconsin. And we have programs that detox, hospitals, psych, inpatient, outpatient counseling, addiction, residential, like a 30-day program, day treatment, for drugs and alcohol, housing for homeless people, case management for homeless. We have contracts with pretty much every county and tribe in the state of Wisconsin. And we, like I said, serve 9,000 people annually through our 20-some programs.
You said it's a company, but is this like a profit thing? Or?
No, I wish.
Because some people, I think, I heard company, and I was I just don't want. I don't.
It's a nonprofit.
Got it.
And
Okay.
if you read our books, we lost a fair amount of money, so we're truly a nonprofit last year because we lost, I think, close to $300,000 because of staffing and underfunded. And so we've become very dependent on fundraising, which is how we met.
Yeah.
We did what was called the Nada Gala, and we raised, I don't know if you know this, but over $250,000 that night.
Just 50 short of breaking even,
Yeah.
Next time.
Exactly. So we're getting there. So yeah, it's just humble to be part of what services we provide, and the people that we serve are in dire straits of help and healing and hope, and we can provide that both medical and mental health and addiction treatment.
Describe for folks some of the people that you see come through on kind of a daily basis. What are you seeing more often these days? Folks that may need help now that haven't traditionally needed help.
What we're seeing is a large uptick in folks that are suffering from the opioid crisis. So we're getting a lot of younger folks in our residential units that are addicted to the opioids, and we are able to help them greatly because we have doctors that can prescribe medications that help them through the withdrawal process, which is very tough. We're also seeing a large uptick in people that have depression and anxiety and increased alcohol use, especially during the COVID crisis, because people were sitting at home and kind of self-medicating. And now from a mental health and addiction standpoint, we're seeing the uptick from that. So those are kind of the the interesting trends that we're seeing right now that wasn't there pre-COVID.
So an increase and is the opiates, is it mostly, what is that predominantly?
Heroin. A lot of times, well, what happens a lot of times is people start off with the pain pills and they become addicted to those, and then they can't get off them because the withdrawals, they say, is like 5 to 10 times the flu. It's very tough just to get off the opioid pills. And eventually they a lot of times turn to heroin, and because it's cheap and easy to get, and it can take over your life. But fortunately, we have such a great amount of doctors and nurses that can take care of the physical withdrawal, and then we can also help folks with the mental health and the addiction plans and treatments, and as they tend to try to live a life without the opioids.
Yeah. And I mean, these are really important things. And it feels like something that like sort of, the system you would think would like cover, and take care of. How do you guys fit into the context of like the system as people know it? And what sort of gaps do you fill?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. I think I know where you're going. So we take all payer sources, and the government, which MA pays for a fair amount of the services we provide. Unfortunately, they don't hit 70% of our costs. So, for example, if you were to stay at our residential inpatient facility, which we have highly credentialed staff, including doctors and nurse prescribers and master's degree counselors, MA pays like $150, $200. You can't get a hotel room for that.
Yeah.
So there's a huge gap. Even though the government pays, they don't pay enough. So we have to fundraise, beg, borrow, and steal for more money because our waiting lists are so long and the funding is so weak. We have to do the very best we can to find other funding sources.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of how is that? You have a waiting list. If you guys weren't there would just be this whole void. Yes, I guess that would be covered. How? I guess like that's sort of what I'm asking. If you weren't there, how would
what
people?
Happened? Like I'd tell you exactly what happened. Number one, and most tragically, people would die. No doubt in my mind, people would die because when folks come to us, not always, but a lot of times they're on death's door with maybe suicide, major withdrawals, certain diseases. They are in a tough spot for a lot of people. So some people would be dead. Number two, the jails would be filled, and so would the ERs. One of the tragic statistics that are out there is the number one provider of mental health services in our United States is the jails. People are being locked up a lot for mental health issues and being in a mental health crisis and being treated like criminals. And that's where the burden would be shifted. It'd be more overcrowding in our jails, and folks would go there. And that is the definition of insanity. Because if you, for example, were going through a mental health crisis and you're on medications and you stop taking your meds, if you were to come to us, we would get you stable, we get you back on your meds, and we make a plan for you to go home and with services or whatever else, case management. But if you go to jail and that's that same person, you're not getting your meds in jail. You are, in fact, probably going through withdrawals, even worse because you don't have your meds. And then your mental health is exacerbated, and then 3 days later, you're pushed out on the street with nothing there. And lo and behold, a couple of days later, you'll probably end up at the ER or back in the jail. So the work we provide is so vital, but unfortunately, it's underfunded.
Yeah, and why is it so underfunded, do you think?
I don't think people treat it as a disease, and I think if it doesn't affect you or your family, then sort of out of sight, out of mind, and it's those people. And on top of that, there's so much minutia in our government, where getting something changed takes years. Like I know Governor Evers wants more mental health services and wants to help people more, but when he when he suggests something, the other side will knock it down,
Right.
and vice versa.
Right.
So
yeah.
unfortunately, our government isn't able to make the changes necessary for us to truly help people. And again, I keep harping back. That's why at Tellurian, we are so much appreciative and dependent on other donors to support the work we do. And we're fortunate that that there's private donors that understand the life-saving works that we do at Tellurian.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like when it comes to the money that you guys get every year and have built this and have served so many people, like, can you just like give us sort of numbers, like how many people we're talking on, like sort of an annual basis here?
I mean, how many do we serve annually?
Yeah.
Roughly 9,000.
9,000. Okay. I think you said that. I just
that's
want
fine.
clarification.
Yeah, so that's 9,000, and then and it's and I want to be really clear. It's not of that 9,000. A lot of it, people look like you and me.
Of course. Yeah.
It's because we know medically that addiction and mental health issues are not they're not prejudiced at all to race, creed, color, religion, money, and so we see a lot of folks that look just like you and me and that need different levels of care, and we help all people on the on the entire spectrum of need.
Right. And kind of where I was going with that too is it's not just 9,000 people, because those 9,000 people, they have families, and then they have people that would be negatively impacted from, maybe choices you make when you're on drugs. So it's almost like you take one problem and it's a ripple effect.
Yes.
And so to almost go the ripple effect in the other way, to take 9,000 people struggling and not just neutralize that, but what you guys have done and what I was super impressed by in doing your event this past winter is that the folks that you guys help out not only are like okay, but they are then helping and reaching a hand back out, and they are contributing incredibly to society, which I think is really cool. It
is cool. And we put our money where our mouth is, and we hire a lot of folks that have been through mental health or addiction issues. We kind of highlighted when you did our event, the gentleman who had spent a lot of time in prison, in gangs, and now is working for us, working on getting people who are in gangs and coming out of prison to become productive members of society and having a better quality of life. And it's really neat to see. And I'm just humbled to be part of watching the successes that happen, because the work that providers like Tellurian and others do really makes a difference. It's getting on medication, getting mental health treatment, working with counselors, working with case managers can really make a difference in people's lives and the quality of their life. And going back to your statement about the trickle-down effect, how it trickles to their family members and jobs, and less work in the prison, or less people in the jails and the prisons and the ERs. So it definitely has a trickle down or trickle out effect.
Yeah, definitely. And you got like, no small job, just kind of like first of all, managing the money every year to make sure it gets to the people who need it.
Yes.
But also then trying to raise money every year.
Yes.
And so you're able to get connected with people like Gilbert Brown.
Yes.
Leroy Butler, all that. Talk about like, how did that start? How did you start? Gilbert's the one who got me in it. So where did that conversation begin with him, and what got him so engaged in this?
So early on, when I kind of took over for my position, this has been, 28 years ago, we noticed that we wanted to do some sort of an event. I kind of like golf, so we started this celebrity charity golf outing, and we would invite local celebrities and Packer players, Badger coaches, etc., and people would play as a fivesome, and we raised some money. But as time went on, our fundraising became a lifeline to keep our lights on and serve people. So over those years, he started meeting people like Gilbert and Leroy and Mikowski, and I think back to Dave Craig and Gail Sayers and all these sports folks that either themselves or others have mental health and addiction issues in their families. And once you get to know them and you hear their stories, some of them are sharing like to others, like, hey, myself or my family members, here's how I was affected, because I'm just like you. I have mental health issues. I've had trauma in my life. I'm on medication. And they would speak, and so over the years, it just keeps building and building. When they hear the work that Tellurian does, they are like thrilled to come and share their stories and support us and help us raise money. And the other cool thing that's happened is when, a big man like Gilbert Brown or a Hall of Famer like Leroy or Packer legend quarterback Mikowski, when they share their stories with folks, it helps with the stigma. So it's really kind of cool to go, wait a minute, big old Gilbert Brown, the gravedigger, who would crush you and I in a heartbeat, has similar concerns, fears, struggles like everybody else, and it helps break down that stigma. So that's kind of a cool sidebar as far as having those folks involved, because it makes it a little bit more okay to ask for help.
You hear their stories, you hear how people relate to them. And then does one sort of lead to like another, and it's just more people kind of come on board with this thing? Is that kind of how that works?
It just continues to grow, and it blows me away through our different events and then through helping people and getting to know people. In fact, a really cool side story. So you and I talked about, we have our golf tournament coming up, and Brett Favre is going to be the kind of the keynote.
Yeah.
And there's no secret that Brett had some major addiction issues. And so he was in town for something, and we were kind of going back and forth what he was going to do. And I said, can you do me a favor? Can you come and surprise visit our people that are staying in our 30-day drug and alcohol treatment center, similar to the one you went to or out west?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it was the day after, or the Monday after the Packers played in somewhere down south the first weekend, and Jordan Love got hurt. We had no report on what's going to happen. Is he done for the season? And so if you picture, there's a big group room similar to this with maybe 20 some clients that are there for 30 days because they can't stay sober. And they need attention, and they're in a dark place, right? And then some staff are there, and so I come in, and I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm Kevin, yada yada. Anybody watch Packer game last night? Yeah. I said, oh, hey, I think I found the backup quarterback for the Packers. And the folks are like, what do you mean? The guy said, I always forget his name, but he used to play for him, the old gun something or another. And someone's like, oh, Brett Favre. And then he walks in, and people were like, and tears are running down their face. And he shared his story for an hour and talked about his addiction issues and the bad choices he made. And he got emotional, and the clients got emotional. It was just a really cool thing, I think, for him to share, but also for the folks sitting here, like, this was a guy that was the toughest guy in the world for us as Packer fans, sitting here sharing real stories about literally picking pills out of his puke because he had no more, but his stomach was being, eaten from or raw from all these drugs he was taking, and he would puke and pick them up and eat them again, making himself vulnerable. Really was a really neat thing that, once again, everybody's got their stuff, but very blessed to have folks like that just speaking out and making a difference.
Yeah. I mean, that is, because you see a guy at the top of his game, and his shortcomings, they're out there.
Yeah.
And but to sort of see like exactly what he was going through, through that time is especially in something like football, something that just beats you up, you know?
And he was the Iron Man of football, but he had major issues with mental health and addiction.
Right. Yeah.
And,
I mean, I've seen some of the blocks that he went, you know, he was like the leading blocker.
Right.
You know? I was like, yeah, I can see where it goes. But I guess the point is, like, there's so many different reasons that people can end up in a situation. And, you know, we are still in a society that puts shame on it.
Yes.
You know, we are still a society that says, oh, addiction, that's largely because you're lazy or something.
Or making
like
a choice, or you're homeless and talking to yourself and begging for money because it's your choice. And it truly, I can't say it enough, it's truly not a choice. It's a medical condition. Addiction is and mental health are medical issues that can be helped through medical advancements, along with counseling and other wraparound services.
Yeah, and I think that maybe the hard thing for people to kind of wrap their head around too is, like, when you help someone else, you help yourself.
Yes.
You know, like
oh my goodness, yeah.
The amount of money we spend through taxes or whatever, societally, to fix problems that could have been prevented, by just putting the money up front, as opposed to, like, dealing with the underlying issue, the addiction, as opposed to the symptoms of it, which is the jails.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the problem is we're just so ass backwards. You know, like, we fund the jails because somehow those make money.
Right.
We let pharmaceutical companies make pills now, ask questions later. Maybe they'll pay billions in fines, but they made tens of billions on the drug. So still worth it. They're still doing it.
Well, if you want to talk money and harming our society, we could talk about Delta 8 and how that's legal in the state.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because there's every gas station you go into has got Delta 8. What is Delta 8? Do you know about it?
Yeah, it's one molecule off of marijuana. It's marijuana. People say, oh, marijuana's not legal in Wisconsin, we should make it legal. It's legal. Just it's one molecule off. Go to the gas station and buy it. Oh, you're 12 years old, go buy it. So at least in Illinois, where the fibs live, right?
You can buy that stuff if you're 12?
Yeah.
The Delta 8?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. And what people don't understand is it's different than in the 70s or the 60s when people smoked weed. People are taking 30, 40, 50 milligrams of this stuff, and they become addicted. And it also exacerbates their mental health issues. So people think they're taking, well, it helps me sleep and helps with arthritis and helps with all these things. Well, we're seeing a large uptick in people that are suffering from these Delta 8 type stuff that you buy at the gas stations. And so it's kind of funny that people think that marijuana is not legal in the state of Wisconsin. Just go to the gas station.
Yeah, I mean, I always question, like, what that stuff's actually doing to you, because we don't really know, because it's different from, like you said, the weed that was around a while ago.
And there's nothing there that says how much you can and can't take, or how much you can or can't buy. If you go to Illinois or I think Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and I'm not sure about Minnesota, you're only allowed to buy so much, and it's regulated, and there's warnings, but you can go to the local gas station and get yourself some Delta 8, and it's becoming an issue, and we're seeing folks that are having more mental health issues and becoming addicted to these drugs that are it's kind of a travesty.
Yeah. What are you seeing, like, mental health issues kind of from it? Is it like more paranoia or just addiction you're talking about?
Well, no. So a lot of time. So if someone were on, let's say, an antidepressant, and now they're taking a large amount of the Delta 8 type stuff that's out there, it negates and sometimes makes it even worse, your depression or your anxiety as time moves on. So it has a counter effect, and it knocks out any positive effects you're getting from your antidepressant type.
Oh,
medication.
Really?
Yeah. So it makes it it's doubly counterproductive.
Yeah, I don't think people know that at all.
No,
you know?
No. You buy it at the gas station. It's
right.
Kind of it blows me away, because I'm on the state council for the state of Wisconsin on addiction, and we've sent letters and recommendations to the folks down at the Capitol, begging for some sort of legislation and some sort of oversight to kind of what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's wild. I remember when I was in college, there was this drug called salvia. You ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
You could buy it for like a year or 2 years maybe in Wisconsin. And so I was a teenager at that point, everyone got their hands on it.
Yeah.
You would take a hit of this stuff, and for like 1 minute, you were in the worst psychedelic experience of your life. You'd like feel like you're inside a piece of paper.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, if you look it up, there's like kind of memes on it and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's like another example of a drug that like
somehow snuck through.
Yeah, they did sort of a synthetic version of it. I don't know exactly where it comes from, but it was it was the worst experience ever. I feel like anyone who tried it would only try it once because it was just terrible.
That freaky.
Yeah, but I mean, it was like that's like I don't know how you just get stuff out there and then put it out like that, or where the sort of the consumer protection is. But it's it's really interesting to see that you say that about the Delta 8 stuff. And so you've had people come in who kind of like they went on a worse mental trajectory after trying that stuff.
Absolutely. And then there's some major withdrawals trying to get off that also, because the amounts that people are taking are kind of staggering, and they don't realize how addictive and how it's affecting their mental health, because it's candy.
Yeah.
Or a little cute little pen that, tastes like candy.
Right.
And it's legal, so you think it's good. And so these teenagers especially are taking it willy-nilly, like Pez candies, it's kind of, and then they try to get off it. It can be tough.
Yeah. Yeah, that is scary. You're kind of as you're fixing this problem, it's like you're trying to address again the symptoms and sort of cut it off at the source, and it's tough to do both things. So why is it still legal? Do you know?
I don't know. That's a great question. We're trying to press the legislators to have some oversight on it. Right now, I think it's just a legal technicality, because of the one molecule off makes it not like the marijuana you get in Illinois, but it's technically legal.
Yeah. You would think Wisconsin would be like, all right, everywhere around us has legalized it.
Well, yeah, I would rather see us make it legal and then collect the tax revenue from it, and then reinvest that money into treatment and helping people in need.
Yeah. And you regulate what's in it too, because a buddy of mine's in that industry, and he's showing me like all the prints. He gets a print because they get their stuff tested. Yeah. And it can't have a certain amount of lead in it. It can't have a certain amount of, because all these things, they put pesticides on them.
Yep.
Where they're growing them, the soil can have heavy metals in it and everything. So, you really don't know what you're ingesting at all, which is kind of
correct. And occasionally we'll see people that will do a urine test for drugs, and we're like, hey, do you know you have fentanyl in your system?
Oh, wow.
No, I don't do that. Well, what have you been taking? Well, you're not unregulated stuff. That's the other downside, and probably another reason to make it at least regulated a little bit more, because the stuff we're getting a lot of times here in Wisconsin is not regulated that highly.
Yeah,
and it's scary.
That is scary. Yeah, I mean, so you're saying like they had only been doing the Delta 8 and they found fentanyl in it?
Yeah, they're like, how did I get fentanyl? And there's reports that some of the stuff that people are selling, they're making it look like it's stuff you bought at the gas station, but it's, there's make it in the fun little packages, but it's there's fentanyl in it.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. All that's scary, man. That's really scary stuff.
And yeah, in fact, families will ask, like, I know my kid's going to be doing marijuana. I know it. And if that's the case, I would recommend have your kid at least buy it. If that's the choice, at least buy it from, I hate to give Illinois any more money, but I'd rather see you buy it from a regulated place than, some dude, because you just don't know what you're getting. It's scary.
Yeah. No, that's good to know. Very informative on that. Like, where do you hope to take Tulare? Where do you hope it goes? What's sort of your big dream for it?
I've had this dream that I would like to see us as a state, and where Tulare builds kind of a one-stop shop behavioral health center, and we work with people throughout the state in where you can come, where the police can drop someone off if they're in a mental health crisis, not at the jail. Fire and rescue ambulance services can drop someone off and not take them to the ERs that are full and not really, it's sort of in and out, where folks can come there, then they can get treatment. They can be treated with respect and dignity, in partnership with, our doctors and our psychiatrists, and have it where we are greatly reducing the burdens on the jails and the ERs, because that's where our folks are sitting that are in mental health crisis. That would be something I've been working on for a lot of years with, haven't had great success, but it's still there. I have plans drawn up, and there's so much, behind the scenes of what insurances or MA can pay for and what the state laws are. Like right now, if you are in a mental health crisis, there's a good chance they have to take you to Winnebago up in Oshkosh. And that's a big burden on the police. And it's a public safety issue also. So having an alternative to Winnebago would be part of this also.
That's it? That's the only place in the state
that
they can go?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So you could go on for hours with this too, but so what happens is these small communities especially are greatly impacted because you need to go to a locked facility because you're a danger to yourself or others.
Right.
Beaver Dam, let's say you live in Beaver Dam. Beaver Dam police, you have to be transported by the police, has to take you to Winnebago. It's roughly an hour and a half there, hour and a half back, and 4 hours or more of waiting time to check that person in. So the police officer or two are out of Beaver Dam for 6 hours. That's overtime, more than likely. And now there's maybe nobody or only one police officer. So it's also a public safety issue too. It's kind of a big issue. And that's where I would like to have something similar in southern Wisconsin that can alleviate and help the police, help public safety, and most importantly, help people that are in a mental health crisis that are sitting in the back of a cop car.
Yeah. It
doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. Even sort of showing up on the scene, you have a police officer show up on scene. I mean, there was all this during 2020 and sort of the George Floyd protests of you have a police officer showing up to a mental health crisis. That's kind of like a mechanic showing up to a mental health crisis. Sometimes, it's not that they're not trained at all in it, but it's not their specialty.
No, that's their job. And then you see the gun and the mace and people who are in a mental health crisis. It can a lot of times exacerbate the issue.
Yeah. Especially if you're tripping on that Delta 8 stuff, man.
Right,
Talk about paranoia through the roof. Yeah. Probably jumping in a pond somewhere.
Yeah, and then getting shot. So
right. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
But you would have a facility in addition to that one kind of in Winnebago. But is there any plans on having and I think they do have this to a certain degree. Don't you call another number for a mental health person?
Yeah, there is. Yep.
Okay.
And most of our programs are in Dane County, and we're very fortunate to have a police department. Our Dane County Sheriff Calvin Barrett also is a board member of Tulare, which is really nice. He truly understands the difference between mental health and addiction and being a criminal. Mm-hmm. And criminals belong in jail, and people with mental health crisis need to go to a facility like Tulare, and we partner together to try to take and treat people with respect and dignity that are truly in a mental health crisis that we can help, and not just this revolving door of locking people up.
Yeah. What's that we always hear about, prisons being kind of like for-profit prisons and all that sort of stuff? Do you understand that? how those systems work?
I know they make a lot of money and they're full.
Yeah.
And
like, can't you just change it so like the mental health stuff makes a lot of money?
That would be nice,
Can't
right?
you just get the greedy people to do the right thing?
Well,
you have the right kind of thing.
Well, here's the deal. You could make money in addiction and mental health services.
Okay.
Only if I serve and help people like Charlie Barron's that has really good insurance.
Ah, all right.
Tolarian's mission is to help indigent people also.
Mm-hmm.
So indigent meaning no insurance or MA. Mm. So that's where, like last year, like I said, we lost over $300,000 because we're not in it to make, well, we'd like to make money, but we're not in it to serve only people that have the means.
Which I think is laudable. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, it's our mission.
But no one has prison insurance.
Right.
How do these prisons make money? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Like, can't you take that financial system and say, just move it to mental health? Yeah. You know?
Right.
I'm sure there would be some unintended externality with that.
Well, there are people that need to be in prisons too.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But let them. Yeah, that's true. So then the big prison lobby is going up against a big mental health lobby, saying,
right,
fighting to the death on it. Although it's probably a smaller mental health lobby than it is the prison.
Yeah,
lobby.
Our voice needs to be bigger.
But you know what I mean? Doesn't it feel sometimes like in order to get anything done, any meaningful change in this world, you kind of have to like make sort of someone make money from it?
Yes.
Does that frustrate you? Do you feel that way, you know?
Well, it feels horrible. I mean, because it's, we have staff and we want high quality of care and we want to serve indigent, poor people that otherwise would not get the help they need. And that's a fine line between keeping your lights on and cutting services and cutting people's jobs. And it's not an easy business. Yeah.
I mean, because you can't go too many years losing 300,000.
No. We could set up a bougie, something where we've got only people like Charlie would come, and Charlie and his family would not only pay insurance, but maybe even pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month in cash to be, in a facility like that. But that's just not our wheelhouse.
Yeah. Systematically, I guess. The reason I'm bringing this up isn't just to be cute. Is there like a different system that you could see, being the sort of architect of, to like change this from like a prison first society to like a mental health, like just be more specific with what the person needs before just having,
a big step in that direction would be this. And I've lobbied for this for many years. If the government funding for the services that like Tolarian pays for, if they were to just pay our fixed costs, it would be a game changer. Because it's almost impossible to pay a staff member with any type of credentials that's required to bill that the government insurance for them to see that many patients in a day to even break even. I don't know if that makes sense, but let's say I'm a counselor, and I do individuals, and I can maybe see 6 clients a day. If that model works, if all 6 have insurance. If I were seeing people on MA, I would need to see like 18 or more a day, which is humanly impossible, just to break even.
Oh, wow.
So it would be a game changer if, MA and the government would just pay us enough to break even. Would be phenomenal, because it's pennies on the dollar.
Well, what's it like lobbying for this? We always hear about lobbyists, and lobbyists control everything.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to lobby for these things that kind of make sense? What pushback do you get?
There's so many people involved at so many levels that I just don't know who has the power to make the change.
Right.
I know the governor wants, 2 years ago, it was the year of the mental health, and he seems like a really good guy that cares. And I know like our county exec, Melissa Agard, really cares, and people on the left really care, and people on the right really care. But at the end of the day, everybody's got to vote and go through all these processes and procedures, and you wake up with monotony and minutia, and nothing seems to change because there's so many people involved. It's a sad, broken system. Well, and at the same time, unfortunately, people are literally dying or suffering greatly because nothing changes.
Damn, that's depressing.
I know. You're supposed to be the funny guy.
I'm trying to be funny here. I gave you the best I had with the Delta 8.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it out of here.
I know.
But you just kind of like bring your head around it of like, how do you break through that?
You fight every day and you make a difference. And the cool thing is, and I'll try to not make this too much more depressing, is I can tell you there are so many people that have the work that we do at Tellurian have changed their lives greatly. Thousands upon thousands of people that are better husbands, better wives, better mothers, better friends, better life is better, and the trickle out effect. It so much good happens also, but it's not all doom and gloom, and so many people are doing so much better, and we'll continue to help people and continue to lean on and try to raise funds or work with foundations, and we're very fortunate that folks do support us above and beyond what the government pays for.
Yeah. Well, and I do want to just thank you for that, because you could see in that gentleman's face when I hosted that event for you guys is like the joy he had. He had just gotten married, he had his baby with him, I believe.
Well, so here's the cool thing. So this is where Tellurian, I think, is unique. So going back to your George Floyd thing, we're sitting there and I'm watching people go on social media and Black Lives Matter, which is cool, and bumper stickers, but what are you going to do different? Like for me, middle-aged white guy that runs a behavioral health company, I just don't want to post something and let it end. So we went out and wrote a grant and asked for funding to pay for James, who was the counselor person, to go above and beyond what the government pays for and use that money to hire James. And with the intent that we, Tellurian and James, are going to go into the jails and we're going to target African Americans who have mental health and addiction issues that are in jails for mental health reasons and not necessarily criminal or small crimes, and case manage, help with psychiatry, help with addiction. And so it was Tellurian's response to Black Lives Matter. And it's more than a bumper sticker. We did something. We helped people. You got to meet, this gentleman who came from the projects in Chicago, and here he is that night celebrating, well over a year of sobriety. He's there. He just got married. He's there with his son. He's a better father, friend. He's got a job. It was, made possible by the work that we do at Tellurian. But the really cool thing I don't think is, so we did an ask. If you recall, people go, who can give 1,000 and da 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 da. Him and his wife gave $500.
Wow.
So here's a guy that's borderline homeless, and he says to his wife, I want to give back just like Tellurian has given back to me. I want other people to be helped. And that man, who 500 to him is, off, is a big freaking deal. And he gave 500 that night, which, it almost, puts a lump in your throat, how cool that is. And it just shows you that the goodness and the kindness that people have. And if you give them a chance and help them with their mental health and addiction, that the world's a much better place.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That really
it was really cool.
That's a good chunk of change, and he's just getting back on his feet and everything too,
Yeah.
That's really cool to see. And there again, bringing it all back, it's kind of like once you heal people, the healed can help heal, and
it was neat.
Yeah, that's super cool. And also, not to make it depressing with the government thing, but thank God that, people like you are doing the things that you're doing because you are helping pick up where the government kind of drops the ball.
Yeah,
you know.
We can sit and whine and complain about the government, which we do, or we can just say, okay, we're going to go and we're going to raise money. We're going to beg for folks. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, and it works.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, man. We have a question that we say on each of these things, and we kind of have cripe sesh here. So what makes you say cripes? And it doesn't have to be the government. Doesn't have to be anything serious. It could be some serious, but just anything that kind of grinds your gears. What do you got?
What grinds my gears? Well, I vented enough about the government and
lack
of funding there, so I feel like it's got to be sort of getting old.
Yeah, you're getting old.
Yeah.
What's tough about that?
Well, the back starts to ache.
Yeah.
The knees start to ache. Sometimes if you just sleep wrong I'm 55, you sleep wrong, you're like, gosh darn it, cripes.
Yeah.
I'm getting old.
I got that at 38.
Yeah. Like I need to stretch in the mornings. And if I'm playing golf or doing something on cripes, I got to take a couple ibuprofen.
So, sleep is a contact sport all of a sudden after a certain age.
It really is. And I would say cripes. That would be my cripes.
That's a good cripes right there. Yeah. Are you a guy that has to, like, in your 20s, you like can kind of fall asleep in a corner, but like as you get older, do you have you got to do a lot more stuff to go to bed, or are you guy that just do you have the leg pillow for your back?
Yeah, I like
the eye mask.
I like it cold.
Okay.
Cold and dark. My wife likes it hot and light, so it's a little different. But I would love it. I like the window wide open when it's 10 below zero. And
I'm with you. I'm a cold sleeper too.
Yeah. We have the dog that jumps in our bed, so that's a whole nother story. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, okay. Who wins the battle, by the way?
Who do you think?
Your wife.
Yeah. I was going to say cripes.
Okay.
But yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, good luck sleeping.
Thank you.
Happy melatonin trips to you.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to you.
And then more importantly, though, where can people, this is coming out this week, so where can people sign up for the golf outing, which I wish I could be at, but I think we, if we haven't already, we got to hook you guys up with some brandy or like some donation package or
That'd
whatever
be awesome.
You think would work
thank
good.
you. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Everything helps. So a couple things. One, folks that are listening, if they want to donate to Tolarian or they or themselves or loved ones need help, we're there to help people through all our different levels of care. Our website is www.tolarian.org, and I'll spell Tolarian because people get it wrong a lot. It's T as in Tom, ELLU, R as in Ralph, IAN as in Nancy.org. And then if people want to join us on May 21st, Wisconsin Dells Trappers Turn, we have our 28th annual Tolarian Celebrity Golf Tournament where your buddies Gilbert and Leroy and Amon Green and Don Makowski and Badger coaches and all the different sports legends throughout Wisconsin, along with Brett Favre, is going to come and share his story at the dinner about his addiction and his mental health. I have folks reach out and sign up early and often because we're selling out quick with folks like that. If you're a Packer fan, it'll be a cool experience.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, really cool. Well, thanks for coming in. Thanks for making the drive down. I think it's always better to do this stuff in person.
Yes.
You kind of, it feels better.
And you were at the draft. That was cool. And you're with, speaking of Gilbert.
Yeah.
And Leroy. Nice.
Yeah. I did a panel. Leroy was on the panel, and Gilbert I saw at his party after. So
did Gilbert give you his vodka?
No, it's, does he have a vodka too? He's got beer. Gilbert's got a beer.
Oh, Gilbert has beer. Leroy's got.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's got the vodka. The Leap vodka.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what it was. Leap.
I got some of that downstairs.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's good for your Bloody Marys, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out.
Yeah.
Plug for Leroy. Well, cool, man. Thanks for
you.
coming in.
No, thank you. And thank you for supporting Tolarian. I know you did you helped us at our Nata Gala, and I'll give you a plug. Not only did you come and go way above and beyond, but you personally donated a large amount of money that day, and that really makes a difference in people's lives. And I know you like to joke around and stuff, but it showed that you have a really good heart and care about people. And you didn't have to do that, but thank you for your support too.
Well, look, gets me out of purgatory. All right. My grandma's rosaries are not going to do it. Okay.
No,
so it's indulgences.
I hope to make it to purgatory. I can deal with that.
That would be great.
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
Yeah. Growing up Catholic, that was my hope.
Yeah. If you can get there, you're in.
You're at good
you
enough.
You just got to wait outside the bar for a while.
That's right.
Know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But, that's how it goes.
That's right. Yep. Cool.
Cool. Thanks, man. I do appreciate you.
Appreciate you having me.
You watch for deer out there.
You betcha.
All right, folks, that is all the time we have for now. If you want to, again, consider donating, you can check in the show notes or go to Tolarian.org. Thank you all for listening. Thanks to Hannah Milos for editing and producing. And you guys keep her moving. Watch for deer, and we'll see you next week.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down, just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin, the Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee.
You know, sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.